What is the worst pain that you've ever been in your life?
I have my answer. And if you've played this game, I know your answer too. Hunt Down the Freeman was simply the most boring, undercooked, poorly executed joke of a game I think I've ever played. And I know the game is also not meant to be taken all that seriously, but the joke isn't even funny 99% of the time. The joke also cost $10.
Mitchell, I can't believe you made it.
It wasn't.
Good to see you in one piece, Nick.
Okay, let's go.
Larry, shut the fuck up, for God's sake.
What?
Yes, Daddy. Sir.
Larry,
What?
goddammit.
Don't touch me.
Hey, Mitchell.
I'm
Follow
so
me.
lost right now.
And despite being a mod for Half-Life, it's also designed in such a way that it's the complete antithesis of everything Half-Life stands for. Thank you everybody so much who commented on my last video. Leave a comment on this one for a chance to be featured in the next video. And finally, a thank you to my patrons. Fuck any of you who suggested this to me though. Stin, Dotman, Brian, Angel, Defoe 3, Papa Noob 345, Dominic, Dominique, Kevin, Bradley, Mark, 13th Mortimer, Nindota, Micah, Devin, Sadiq, Bryce, Victor, and Stank Prime. Hunt Down the Freeman follows the life of Mitchell Shepard. Oh shit, who cares about spoilers? Yeah, he's Adrian Shepard's brother. I really didn't care. But a bit of a rough go of it in life, and in an attempt to pull himself together, joined the Marines.
Whoa, Jesus Christ.
Look at this guy doing his best Undertaker impression. I also wish I was a dead man right now. As a Marine, we of course follow Mitchell's POV as a soldier infiltrating Black Mesa, attempting to contain the resonance cascade, only to be inevitably compromised himself by the hands of Gordon Freeman. Wink, wink. Now, the idea of being a soldier who found his brothers in arms killed by Gordon and almost nearly got killed by Gordon himself, wanting to enact revenge on him for doing that, is a pretty cool concept. And as a whole, I think the whole Hunt Down the Freeman portion of the game that coincides with the events of Half-Life 2 is pretty alright. The problem is, there's 2/3 of a game that happens before that. The first act takes place during the 7-hour war, where the Combine first took over the planet. Again, sounds like a cool concept that ultimately falls flat because of its dog-ass execution. The second act takes place 3 years after the war.
After the war,
Mitchell
stayed secluded in a deep depression that seemed endless.
And the third act, again, coincides with the events of Half-Life 2. You find yourself in City 17 trying to track Gordon down. Never mind the fact that even the thought of going into City 17 and leaving the safe haven that is your ship in the middle of the ocean is absolutely crazy, but then you can just casually stroll around the city without a care in the world, whatever, it's fine. You soon find yourself as part of the Combine forces who infiltrated Black Mesa East. And afterwards, you have to attempt to track Gordon down through this zombie-infested swamp just outside of Ravenholm.
You gotta get out of here with this 2-bullet nonsense. What is this?
This and the Black Mesa East stuff I think was actually alright. I gotta admit, it's pretty cool to see the outskirts of these areas we were in before get expanded like this and seeing how they'd seamlessly then connect to the areas we ran through as Gordon in Half-Life 2. But really, these were the only interesting parts of the game to me because of the added context they provide and the novelty they present as being part of a direct expansion of the world of Half-Life 2. Outside of this half-hour long stretch of this 5-hour game, there's one word I would use to describe the all-encompassing problem that plagues Hunt Down the Freeman. Boring. In Half-Life, things are always happening. The world around you never stops moving and is filled with people and environmental pieces to constantly interact with.
My God, what are you doing?
Even quote-unquote cutscenes never take control away from the player except for that brief time you were restrained by Dr. Breen. You're always in control, always able to do whatever you want at all times. In short, there's never a dull moment. The entirety of Hunt Down the Freeman, however, is a dull moment, containing the most barren, empty stretches of open parking lots, roads, ships, the Arctic. Despite all the criticisms I'll make in this video, I think my biggest gripe I have to pick is the lack of Northern Lights in Alaska. Where are the Northern Lights? Are the people who made this fucking stupid? 90% of locations in this game simply serve for you to mindlessly and brain-numbingly run or drive across, with small pockets of enemies placed here and there to create the illusion that you're actually combating something or doing anything really, when the reality is you can just run or drive by whatever you're fighting most of the time.
Notice me! No!
That's at least the case for the first 2/3 of the game. The last third of the game has a difficulty spike harder than Spike Dudley getting spiked around by Brock Lesnar, as the enemies go from being about as threatening as a group of sleep-deprived snails chasing after you, to suddenly finding yourself bombarded in all directions by 200 people firing at you all at once in totally wide open spaces with no means of covering up, or finding yourself gangbanged by a gargantuan amount of fast zombies and headcrabs, again, with practically nowhere to cover up. As for the weapons to defend yourself against the hordes of total bullshit and tomfoolery, there's some new weapons like different varieties of shotguns, assault rifles, and SMGs, but my favorite new weapon has to be the sniper you get in Alaska. This thing is a beast. No scope. Ooh. You also get a few different melee weapons like an axe, a machete, and a pipe wrench.
Why a wrench?
Cause it's a reference, dude! That's the same weapon your brother used in Opposing Force!
Mitchell, by the way.
Joe, but everyone calls me Boston Joe.
Boston Joe, could you please get closer to the microphone?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to my review of Hunt Down the Freeman.
If there's anything entertaining about this game, I will say it's the voice acting.
If your mother was alive, she'd be proud of you, son.
My mother's dead.
Whether it's because people are using two completely different mics and quality in one scene, or simply because the performance of the actors is...
Oh, God, we're so fucking...
Yeah, that's the voice of Pyrocynical. In fact, a lot of the voice actors in this game are YouTubers. Not that I'm familiar with a lot of them. Hell, it actually took me a couple listens because I haven't heard his voice in so long to realize that the voice of the president in this game is none other than Keemstar.
Everybody type in the chat, Alex is a student. Right now, this is the best chance for our survival as Americans and as humans.
As Americans and as humans, because as we all know, Americans are most important.
I do genuinely want to give a shout out to Mitchell's voice actor, though. He's actually very good.
What the fuck?
And besides, if I'm being totally honest with myself, I don't really have any room to be critiquing anybody else's voice acting.
Are you fucking serious? Are you trying to go back to jail already?
Also, yes, the cutscenes are pre-rendered in this game. They are very jarring when they pop up.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. The whole story is just also a complete mess. I gave you the gist of it. It starts at Black Mesa, moves through the 7-hour war, ends side by side with the events of Half-Life 2. I get all that. It's just the way it jumps from point to point in gameplay that is very sudden. It's not like in Half-Life 1 or 2, where you're continuously and linearly moving forward. The games never jump ahead to somewhere disconnected entirely. Hunt Down the Freeman does this all the time. 1 minute you're in the city fighting the alien forces. There's also these new guys which are just here who also never show up for pretty much the rest of the game. I don't know, they're cool, I guess, but I just wish they actually amounted to something a little more substantial. Then you meet up with this guy Adam, who's a member of the Black Ops. You two decide to team up, and the next thing you know, you're leaving through some drainage system out in the desert. It feels like there's a whole section missing that should have gone between these parts, where the two of you work together to get to the basement of whatever building you're in, then down to the sewers and out from there. Oh, and then you basically just run for a good 5 minutes straight in one of the most exhilarating, action-packed sequences I've ever come across in a video game. Are you starting to get the picture now? Are you starting to understand why this is so mind-numbingly boring? Anyway, you eventually link up with that colonel with a Sharpie for a mustache as you and his men board a train to get out of Albuquerque.
Welcome to Nevada, boys.
Yeah.
Colonel Q?
Dead.
Shit. He was always a tough bastard.
Yeah, he couldn't have been so tough if he's already dead. Here we go. It's time for me to rant about another thing. Are you ready? During this game's tutorial, I was a bit pleasantly surprised to see that the developers wanted to implement a parkour mechanic. Just holster your weapon, and then with certain ledges and pipes, you can climb all over the place. I've never been the biggest fan of whenever Half-Life tries to do any sort of platforming, but here I was like, okay, there could actually be some cool stuff done with this. Half-Life is also no stranger to puzzles, so upon arriving at this place, we had to figure out a way to open this power box so we could open the gates to take our car further ahead. I brilliantly deduced that these glowing red lights seemed to be important, so I followed them to their sources and flipped all the levers that came with them to activate them. However, I couldn't find the source of the last light. I eventually noticed this last light pole on top of the garage. I surveyed the size of the building and thought to myself, this could be a good place to do some parkour. You probably have to get up to this roof or at least the second floor to flip whatever switch the light is connected to. Needless to say, I was wrong. Like when it comes to the parkour stuff, I'm like, oh, I see a light up there. I must have to parkour to get up there. No, you actually just walk straight through this door over here and the thing's just on the wall and you just pull that and that's it. You won. You beat the puzzle. You know, Gordon Freeman could have opened that with his crowbar. Stupid Mitchell. It's just disappointing. Like a lot of things in this game, I know, but there's only like one interesting parkour section the entire game. Most of the time, parkour is just used to dangle your way across some gap or along some ledges. Who's ready for more disjointed bullshit? One minute you're helping out Bozo Joe in the depths of this factory, and then the next door you walk out of, you're suddenly on an enormous shipping dock totally disconnected from wherever the hell you just were. Mentally, sure, I can piece together where things lead from and go to, but again, you don't get that sense of connectivity in gameplay that normal Half-Life games have. You then have to run across this entire shipping dock with nothing happening outside of this short encounter with 3 nerfed hunters, only to climb up this lighthouse and have this happen. Oh. The lighthouse isn't even like destroyed. I just got flung out of it somehow. Why did we go there? Then you have to swim back to shore and board this boat on another part of the dock where you're suddenly confronted by Captain Roosevelt, who gives off the vibe that he makes snuff films on the dark web, and he welcomes you to the crew. Hooray! Let's go hit more buttons and... Oh shit, the ship. Captain Roosevelt, no!
You made a deal with the devil. Here, you have it.
Fucking dies. Captain Mitchell then explains how it's been 3 years since the 7-Hour War, and explains everything the Combine has accomplished on Earth since that time. In just a monologue over a black screen. No animations, images, anything. Just Mitchell's very sensual voice. Would you excuse me? Act 2. Captain Mitchell arrives in Alaska.
You fucked up my face.
So for the past 3 years, Mitchell and his army have just been drifting off in the middle of the ocean because they claim the Combine has no dominion over the ocean, except for that part where they can suck it through a straw, only over the land and sky. So they needed to head to City 9 in Alaska to get themselves some more firepower to defend themselves on the open waters from the Combine's airborne forces. You eliminate some Combine forces with that awesome sniper, and break into this Combine Arctic nightmare, only to find a mysterious bald fool fiddling with a piano. This guy's name is Boris, and Boris thinks we're here to assassinate him, but Mitchell just informs him that we're here for weapons.
Weapons?
Yes, that's what I said.
Mister, do you have any idea what we produce in this factory?
Not weapons?
Not weapons.
You see, in this factory, they actually create cremators. Oh yeah, those cool cut enemies from Half-Life 2. And they're created with child labor. Oh, that cut storyline from Half-Life 2.
Yeah. Mitchell really fudged the scouting report on this one.
So Boris evacuates with his daughter, while Mitch destroys the factory, takes the children, and... The G-Man tells Mitchell it is finally time to enact his revenge. So he gathers up his army of all his grown-up children he rescued and sets sail for City 17. And yeah, I haven't even mentioned the G-Man this entire time. He's a big reason that Mitchell has even made it this far. After all, he's the so-called devil Captain Roosevelt recalled him as, that Mitchell has made a deal with. And so... the hunt begins. You run through City 17, Black Mesa East, Ravenholm, all the way to Nova Prospect, but you escape. And then you get thrown in another jail nearby. Suddenly, Boris's daughter, Sasha, is here to help you. She does, and then she fucking dies. Oh no! And then Adam betrays us. Oh no! And then the G-Man betrays us. Can I just say, it is incredibly uncanny to see him in broad daylight like this. The G-Man then reveals that all this time, it was not Gordon Freeman that almost killed you. It was Adam. Black Ops Adam. Black Adam. Again, I just don't care. After this, you're left with 2 options. You can either die, as the G-Man has given you permission to do, and get this ending.
Adrian?
Okay. Or you can stop playing like I did there because I couldn't be bothered to get the good ending and just look it up on YouTube and find this.
You fucked up my face.
And that's it. That was Hunt Down the Freeman. If you enjoyed this video, thank you very much. And if you thought I made this game sound interesting, I am telling you right now, it is not. And it used to be a lot worse. This game was originally released back in 2018 and was 10 times more broken and unfinished than it is now. Credit to the team behind this, as it sounds like they've done a lot of work to rectify things, but the damage is already done, and there's still years more cleaning up this game needs before it's anything even remotely close to being decent. Now, If you guys would actually like to watch some videos on some fun games that actually deserve to be highlighted, check out my review on some good Half-Life mods like Entropy 0, 1, and 2. MrJarhead. Oh, for fuck's sake.
I realize this may not be the most convenient time for a heart to—
Shut up, just get this over with. I've been through enough already. What the hell do you want? Jesus, God, what the hell?
You took your punishment on the chin, Mr. Jarhead. You repaid the debt. As for the VR headset, I think you've earned it.
Thanks. You could have just handed this to me like a normal person. So do I have to make the video now? Like next video kinda now, or?
That is something my employers will have to get back to me on. But, Mr. Jarhead, rest assured, when the time comes, you will know. Until then, this is where I get off.